This is an Audio Wool original.
This episode of Frightday is brought to you by Spring-Heeled Jack Coffee. You need great coffee. Jack delivers. Visit springhieldjack.coffee.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you'd like to support us, go to patreon.com/Frightday.
They think there's thousands of kids under the city of New York.
Eating pizza?
No, they're being scared to death, and their blood is being harvested for adrenochrome. Celebrities buy it so they can live longer and look more youthful.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yep, that's the reality of what they believe.
People so stupid.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Fuck, man.
It is Fright Day. I'm your host, Byron. Ride sharing is uncomfortable, at least for introverts like myself. Bad music, strange smells, forced conversation, and getting a 4.3 rating because I wear my headphones. I didn't know that was wrong, but it could always be worse.
Did you really get a 4.3 rating for it?
I'll get into it later because
Okay.
I've prepared it strategically. We'll talk about how it could get worse as we review Eugene Kotlyarenko's Spree. And to celebrate the anniversary of my birth this week, we're investigating the claims that our 44th Commander-in-Chief may have been illegitimate.
We aren't.
Possibly not even a U.S. citizen.
No, we aren't doing that. Remember, you told me you didn't want me to
Birtherism?
do the political one. Why do you keep forgetting that we're doing cars?
Let me try this then. Steel, aluminum, copper, rubber, and glass. There are over 284 million motor vehicles currently registered in the United States. On a daily basis, we rely on them to get us safely and quickly from A to B. And when things go wrong, more often than not, it's due to user error, accidents, that or manufacturing defects. But is it possible that some vehicles have malicious intent? It's Cursed Cars. In this week's edition of Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies, I'm joined tonight by screaming children.
Isn't it funny that my idea to sit on the porch was to avoid that, and it apparently is not working, and I apologize.
And Sam can't make it because he's taken someone to the airport.
Sure. Byron, can I tell you about a photo that was taken on your birthday?
Yeah.
But like 7 years before you were born?
You talking about in 1990? Because I'm such a youthful little guy.
No, in 1980.
Oh,
That was
damn.
7 years before you were born.
That's 6, but...
6 years before you were born.
Hey, what?
One of the most famous giant Bigfoot footprints was captured on camera. 17 3/4 inches long, 7.5 inches wide.
Seems too long
near
for a foot.
Conemaugh Township in Johnstown.
Did you get me like an original print for my birthday present, or?
No, I mean, because the picture has this like book of matches in the middle of it for scale, which kind of like ruins the picture. I mean, I like the scale idea, but it ruins the picture a bit. Anyhow, there had been reports of very creepy noises and a very stinky odor in the area, proving that it was indeed a Bigfoot.
Proving, without a doubt, that's a Bigfoot.
Right, and then a murder that happened on your birthday, like your actual birthday.
Oh, like 1986.
August 26th, 1986.
Okay.
Have you heard of this guy, the Preppy Killer?
I have heard of the Preppy Killer, yeah.
Eyewitness News. And good afternoon, I'm Ernie Anastas. Here's what's happening today. Damaging new testimony to the defense in the Robert Chambers murder trial. The 21-year-old Chambers is accused of killing Jennifer Levin in Central Park. Today, another doctor took the stand and testified that Chambers fractured his hand by punching something or someone very hard. Louis Young has details.
An expert on hand injuries, Dr. Robert Beasley of Bellevue Hospital.
I didn't know he had anything to do with my birthday.
The conviction that he eventually actually went to jail for was a woman named Jennifer Levin that he killed on your actual day of birth.
Wow. I mean, maybe next year for my birthday, I'll do Robert Chambers, the Preppy Killer.
So I don't know anything about him other than he killed somebody on your birthday. What was his deal?
Well, he claimed to have strangled Jennifer Levin on accident during rough sex. But yeah, her body was found dumped in Central Park, half naked, covered in dust and bite marks. So yeah, that's not just rough sex, obviously.
There's also a super strange picture of him carrying like a paper bag of stuff.
Okay.
Like in the media, like when he was convicted, I guess. It's very weird. It's very strange. She's also wearing a turtleneck.
I mean, it was a different time, Kelly.
Yeah, turtlenecks are not good. I'm just not a fan of them.
I mean, even now, like even if it doesn't matter. Frightday Society, it's a thing.
The society is live or dead.
Well, yeah, for folks at patreon.com/ okay, come on now.
Hey, so I want to mention, I really like my signature. My initials,
not great.
I need to work on. They aren't as cute.
Esoteric organization dedicated to furthering the knowledge in the fields of horror, hauntings, cryptids, conspiracies, aliens, and true crime. All things frightening and legally not a cult. Wink, wink.
Really, is that a legal concern? Have you consulted an attorney about this? I can consult an attorney.
You should, because
we are an LLC, which means all they can do is sue the LLC,
That's
which
true.
means there's no money.
You can't personally be affected by this financially.
Yeah.
Dues-paying members get an opportunity to move up in our organization. They collect merit badges for completing tasks, and it's just the beginning. They also get membership cards, all that Screamium programming, the lost episodes, hidden knowledge, which dives you deeper into what exactly we're doing, what we're all about. Lots of great perks for you there. It's a budding community, and that's the point. We're going to become closer in our fear. I'm very excited for all this as it's unraveling. Yeah, thank you so much for all the people who recently signed up. I'm going to try to find a way to do something extra special because there's a huge handful of people.
Yeah.
That's patreon.com/Frightday or society.frightday.com.
Give me the myth of a monster over hymns to empire and slavery any day.
Wait, what? What is that?
You know what that was?
No.
That was an article in the National, which is a Scottish newspaper.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, there are lots of the Nationals, right? But this is a Scottish newspaper. And it is in response to Donald Trump Jr.'s comments about Nessie.
I mean,
This guy wrote a hell of an article. Makes me really happy.
That is great, but it is time for staff picks.
They say so much, but they never tell you if it's any good.
Werewolf movie with P.T.'s mom in it.
The Howling, horror straight ahead.
So today, we're talking about cars. And I don't know anything about cars. I've never listened to the podcast Car Talk. I don't watch any of the...
Oh my God. Car Talk holds a special place in the history of Sam and my relationship, and that's all I know about cars.
That you've listened to a podcast about cars?
Well, when Sam and I started dating, I would go over, because we lived away from each other, and I would go to his house on the weekends, and he would have Car Talk on NPR.
Interesting.
Every weekend when I went and visited him. And he doesn't really care about cars that much either, but those guys were funny.
I think most of the car stuff I know is from Gone in 60 Seconds or Fast and the Furious, but I don't even really like cars. I'm much more of a semi-truck guy. There's something more intimidating, menacing about those. I guess if you've been noticing, sometimes I go on Twitch and play American Trucking Simulator, which is a lot of fun. I should do that this week. That would be a good thing to do. Folks may have seen Joyride or The Hitcher, the original or the bad remake, and you know how I feel about Maximum Overdrive. I don't care what you have to say, listener. I don't care if it's a cocaine-fueled Stephen King nightmare that he doesn't even remember making. I love it. But have you seen Duel?
No, because it's bad.
Duel is not bad.
I actually have no idea. It could be very good.
It's a made-for-TV movie from 1971. A Californian businessman travels through the desert to meet a client. When passing...
Hold on, pause.
Is there a car passing?
Actually, yeah. Remind me to talk about that car in a second, though.
Oh, okay. Well, this car, when passing an old tractor trailer, his trip turns for the worse as the Plymouth truck, as the driver is less than friendly and entirely evil. The psycho driver in the terrifying tanker truck chases its prey down a deserted highway, and who knows if the man in the car survives. That man, you may know, Kelly.
As?
Dennis Weaver?
I mean, I know who he is, yeah.
McCloud in McCloud, the NBC police drama from 1970.
Yep.
He was also in Gunsmoke, but in this film, he's a terrified man driving a car. He cut off a truck. He cut off the wrong truck. But yeah, Kelly... Written by Richard Matheson.
Which is really amazing because he wrote one of my favoriteest movies.
What one is that?
What Dreams May Come.
Why do I have a podcast with you?
It's the sweetest romantic movie ever.
I think it's sad and scary, but this was also directed by Steven Spielberg.
That's the wild one.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
A lot of people compare the truck in this to the menacing eating machine that is Bruce the Shark in Jaws. So I don't know, extremely underrated film, simple story, quite the nail biter, and I couldn't recommend it more. I think this is a great summer film to check out. That's all I know about Cars, is when trucks go crazy.
Okay, so Byron, I like doing 2 staff picks. I'm going to do 2 staff picks because one of them I think you think is obvious. I still say there are a lot of people these days that haven't seen this movie. The other one's super esoteric. I am actually trying to find it. I've been trying to find it for a few weeks. I'm hoping it goes better than the last one I tried to find, that Sam Neill possession movie, because that was just
it's a hunt.
Well, but the result really wasn't that satisfying.
Oh.
I'm hoping this one is. But I'm going to start with the obvious one. So this movie is really commonly associated with horror, especially by people, let's say, 55 and older, 60 and older.
What do we got? Is it?
It's Psycho.
Oh, okay.
Here we have a quiet little motel, when in fact it has now become known as the scene of the crime.
You have a vacancy?
Oh, we have 12 vacancies.
You know, if it's the first place that looks like it's hiding from the world.
I think that we're all in our private traps, clamped in them. And none of us can ever get out.
And it's one of those rare horror movies, Byron, where we don't have ghosts, we don't have aliens, we have no monsters, but it's terrifying to me. Really cool visual scares, which Alfred Hitchcock was brilliantly known for, including chocolate syrup in the shower.
We'll talk more about the shower scene here in a sec. I'll let you keep going.
It's also a bit of a road trip movie because Jamie Lee Curtis's mom is on a road trip when she happens upon Norman Bates. Norman Bates, iconic character. The actor helped spawn Osgood Perkins, who has made some killer horror movies. I mean, it's kind of like a horror dynasty origin point, right?
Well, yeah.
In addition to being a Hitchcock movie. It's very fun. It was one of the first horror movies I watched. Bit of a Shyamalan ending, which I don't want to give away because I do really think there are a lot of people out there that haven't seen this.
I think it's got an early Shyamalan, too. I think this film is like...
one of the earliest Shyamalan.
Well, for its time, it's incredibly unique. And
God, I love a Shyamalan. Perkins was so good.
He was incredible.
He was good.
And so was Hitchcock. He was one of those directors that is just so detail focused, and so much so that there's actually a documentary that I saw. It came out in 2017 called 7852 Hitchcock's Shower Scene.
Ooh.
It's an entire documentary about the shower scene and how they shot it, the man behind that curtain. It's really incredible. Who would have thought they could do an entire film about a couple seconds, you know? But yeah, of course, I'm not going to give you shit for saying Psycho, even though, I mean, if you haven't seen it yet, what's wrong with you? Don't pause the podcast. Wait till it's over. Then go.
This
go
is
watch
Byron.
Psycho.
You cannot insult people for that because this is exactly the kind of movie that you wouldn't have seen.
Me?
Yes.
I don't know. I've missed out on a couple classics, but Hitchcock was one of those things that was always on like a TNT, you know, and that's where I watched Birds with my mom. You know?
But it would have been edited on TNT.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's not fun. Okay, so the other one is one that I read about a few weeks ago, and I still haven't found it. If somebody has any idea where I can find it, please let me know. It looks really awesome. It's called Popcorn.
Before the horror of Halloween. Before the fear of Friday the 13th. Before the evil of A Nightmare on Elm Street. Before them all, there was popcorn. Buy a bag. Go home in a box.
Popcorn.
Byron, have you seen Popcorn?
I have not seen Popcorn.
Let me give you the spiel on it. It's from 1991. Apparently, it was very inspirational to the movie Scream.
Sure.
Because it's also kind of like a fun meta horror type deal. Popcorn follows a young girl who just wants to organize a horror movie marathon at her local theater. Unbeknownst to the teenagers, there's a murderer lying in wait at the theater who's going to kill them off one by one.
It sounds like it's more inspirational to Scream 2.
But like, it just seems super fun.
I've never heard of this. The poster is amazing, and it's directed by a guy named Mark Harrier.
Which I'm not familiar with at all. I don't know if you are.
He played Billy in Porky's.
Okay.
So he was more of an actor and then turned director.
Very interesting.
Yeah, seems kind of cool.
I think it seems like it would be worth watching. I just need to find it, and if anybody knows where to find it, please let me know.
Yeah, or just send it to our P.O. Box, huh?
Oh, yeah, that too.
P.O. Box 372, Lolo, Montana 59847. You love physical media.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have any way
You
to
don't.
play
You
it
don't
these
need it.
days.
I was joking.
I would like to stream it.
Oh,
Somebody
okay.
find me where I can stream it, please.
All right, Kelly, keys in the ignition. Let's do this thing.
Ooh, cars.
This week's edition of Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies.
Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies.
Is the mood set? You're sitting near the garage. Why don't you move the setup to the garage?
Well, the cat likes to pee in the garage. The cat's really old, so I don't really want to go in the garage.
So-
Sam has to wash it out with bleach like twice a month.
Yikes.
It's really gross.
Well, you know what you could use to get rid of that scent?
What?
One of these Frightday candles that sold out almost immediately.
I was going to say, why are you pitching those? They're already sold out.
At first, they were just available to the Frightday Society folks, and they sold it out almost immediately. So that's another good reason to go to patreon.com/Frightday and join the Frightday Society. Wine, coffee, and leaves. 3 cents in one candle. Pretty amazing.
Oh, SCENTS, right. Not cents, like pennies. You don't have pennies buried in there.
Yeah.
Cars, guys. There are some super creepy cars out there. They're creepy for different reasons. This is going to be fun for people, kind of like when I mispronounce things. I know so little about cars that I have no doubt I'm going to just screw this up royally. But
I think you'll be okay.
Fear not, Byron. I think you will be able to save me from any excessive issues. And, oh God.
Now you got birds?
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, that's kind of nice.
It's a sweet noise, those birds. So we're going to start off our spooky cars by talking about cars that have been involved in assassinations. The first is an assassination that I had to talk to Sam about for a little while, because other than just the name and knowing factually that it started World War I know very, very little about it, but I learned some fun things. Byron, are you aware that World War I started with the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, who is not just a really bad musician?
I mean, I think it was a whole band of musicians, but yeah, the Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated, yeah.
Right, so before Franz died, there's a legend that in 1913, he shot a rare white stag while on one of those fun old-timey hunts.
They probably had a little dog with him, too.
Probably, and really fun riding clothes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It was widely believed that any hunter who killed a white stag doomed either himself or a member of his family to death within a year.
So,
bum, 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 bum.
Yeah, why do it, though? I mean, that seems like something that he must have known, right?
I don't know. I assume they were, like, drunk. Probably just can't really see, and then he goes, oh damn, it was a white one.
That got one.
Shoot. Yeah, well, anyhow, it's very interesting to me, this story, because he was assassinated after an attempted assassination. His security was really poor.
Oh, just back to back.
Well, yeah, so he was heir to the throne, apparently, though not direct, and he had married a woman who was not royalty, and therefore had to promise that if they had offspring, the offspring would never rise to the throne because royalty's weird. So he dodged one shooting in the morning. Basically, somebody threw a grenade, but it bounced off the front of his car, rolled under the car in front of him, blew that car up.
That attempted assassin was Mr. Bean, is that right?
It does sound like Mr. Bean, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I guess there's some debate. It was supposedly either Serbian or Yugoslav nationalists, but the weapons were definitely supplied by the head of the Serbian military nationalists, which I really wish Sam were here to discuss since he is Serbian, and I always love throwing barbs at Serbians for Sam's sake. They didn't like royalty, and this guy represented royalty, so he was going down. Anyhow, so after the attempt, he kind of like gathered himself and was headed with a motorcade to the hospital to visit the people that had been injured in the attempted assassination of him. And a guy that was involved in the assassination was having breakfast in some cafe, saw Franz outside in his car and was like, oh,
isn't that guy supposed to be dead?
Here's my second chance. killed him.
It's like a low-intensity John Wick type situation.
Yeah, old-timey John Wick. Imagine John Wick in like old-timey clothes with old-timey cars and an old-timey dog.
I think that's what you want to do. Okay.
I mean, we do know that Keanu Reeves was alive then.
Because he was Bill and
He's
Ted.
always been alive.
Okay.
He's like the Jack Nicholson of the world.
All right. This vehicle he was in.
Yeah, but it was a Graf and Stift double phaeton. Oh, I bet I pronounced all of that wrong. Built by these brothers in Vienna who had previously been bicycle manufacturers. It was made in 1910. It wasn't owned by this Austro-Hungarian royalty state, but actually by a guy named Count Franz von Harrach.
Okay.
And he was a guy involved with the Austrian army. He lent it to the Archduke for his day in Sarajevo when he was visiting. Again, he was from out of town. It could have been cursed because of these awful events. It could have been cursed by a red paint job that happened afterwards. But here's the story of what happened following this assassination with this car. After the armistice, the end of World War I, the newly appointed governor of Yugoslavia had the car restored into its pristine original condition. But after 4 accidents and the loss of his right arm, he felt the vehicle should be destroyed. So his friend Dr. Skrikius
I don't trust him one bit.
rescued the car, thought it was ridiculous that a car could be cursed. So he drove it for 6 months. Then it overturned and his dead body was found in the wreckage.
Oh, God. All right.
Then another doctor bought it, but his patients, who he apparently really trusted, got bad vibes from it and were superstitious. And they said, we're not even going to use you as a doctor anymore if you own that car. It's going to mess with your ability to help us. People were really weird in olden times, okay? So he sold it to a Swiss race driver. The Swiss race driver was racing it in the Dolomites, fun mountains over there in Europa. The car, this is how the story goes. I'm not sure how this works, but unless it was like Herbie and ejected him. The car threw him over a stone wall and he died of a broken neck.
Wow.
And then a farmer bought the car.
Come on, you gotta stop driving this car.
And then it stalled one day on the road to the farmer's market. Another farmer started towing it for repairs, but suddenly the car came to life, knocked the tow car aside, careened down the highway. Both farmers were killed.
Wow. Okay. Mm-hmm. And now I can't stop thinking about Herbie the Love Bug.
I didn't bring up the Disney movie this time. You did.
You did. You did say it. You said.
But it was like in passing. I was going to talk about it. But now this is, ironically, my kids watched that for the first time this week.
Okay. Well, what a weird week. Like last week.
Definitely. I mean, it's always a weird week. So then Tiber Hirschfeld decided it was probably because it didn't have a good enough paint job. And this red color that it had been painted was the problem. So he painted it blue and invited 5 friends to ride with him in it to a wedding. But then he and 4 of his 5 guests died in a head-on collision. The government then took the car and decided that this was a problem, had it rebuilt, shipped it to a museum.
It had a head-on collision. Let it go, guys.
Right. I know. It makes sense. It makes sense. It goes to this museum, and a museum curator named Karl Brunner apparently was involved with bringing it in. But one afternoon, this is now in World War II, bombers, because this was in Austria, bombers reduced the museum to smoking rubble. Nothing was found of this curator who had brought the haunted vehicle in. The most ridiculous portion of this legend is that all that remained were his hands on the steering wheel in the rubble. These stories are everywhere. In fact, some of the legends are even more ridiculous than this, but according to the Smithsonian, it's all complete bunk. The car's in perfect shape today, sits in a museum in Austria, was never painted another color. It went straight back to the colonel who owned it, and then was handed over as a historical piece to the museum, and that's where it is. And like nothing else has happened to it in between. The only weird thing that can be verified is that the number on its license plate matches the date of Armistice Day, the day that ended World War I. Which is kind of interesting and coincidental since it started the war.
Wow.
That's the only genuine spooky thing. The rest of it, I'm afraid, is fake news.
Yeah, fake news. Wow. Okay. A prophetic license plate.
You like that?
It's a good start. I like this car, and if you want to look along with us, you can go to frightday.com and look at the show notes for this episode. But yeah, this is
oh, duh, for sure.
Very interesting.
Okay, so second assassination car. I bet you can guess which one this is going to be.
I'm going to say JFK.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You'll excuse the fact that I'm out of breath, but about 10 or 15 minutes ago, a tragic thing from all indications at this point has happened in the city of Dallas. Let me quote to you this. And you'll excuse me if I am out of breath. A bulletin, this is from the United Press, from Dallas. President Kennedy and Governor John Connally have been cut down by assassins' bullets in downtown Dallas. They were riding in an open automobile when the shots were fired. The president, his limp body carried in the arms of his wife Jacqueline, has rushed to Parkland Hospital.
Yep. Back and to the right.
Back and to the right. Episode 105, I believe, is where we started our assassination of JFK coverage.
So proud.
It's a good one.
We really rocked that. I'm excited for our next major series.
I'm excited too, of course.
The SS-100X was the Secret Service name that was given to Kennedy's car. 1961 Lincoln convertible. It is blue. I know the Zapruder footage, it's not exactly rich color in there, and it looks black. It was actually blue.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful. $200,000 of upgrades were thrown into that.
Bells and whistles.
Definitely a pimp my ride situation.
Yeah.
No bulletproofing. And a lot of people think that Kennedy's love of convertibles made him a very easy target.
Wow.
There were domes that went along with the convertible that fit over it, but apparently it made the cabin really, really hot. And none of the domes even provided bulletproof protection. Again, not sure why that wasn't included in $200,000 worth of modifications, but it wasn't. So yeah, this is where Kennedy sat November 22nd, 1963. Very creepy history to this car, obviously. But it's not as creepy as what happened afterwards.
Are you sure? I mean, his brains were everywhere.
I think the assassination's probably the creepiest, yeah. Because they spent so much money in it, they kept it in service for 8 years.
That's what their concern was?
Well, they spent a lot. I mean, it was expensive.
I mean,
like...
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
I guess. I don't know. Government spending.
I guess.
This was back in the day when it used to be a little better, I guess. A company called Hess and Eisenhardt decided they would post facto put some better safety measures in, some bulletproof things, titanium armor plating, bullet-resistant glass, a permanent bulletproof roof, so it was never a convertible again, painted black by Lyndon Johnson, which seems rather symbolic if you believe that he was involved in the assassination. In 1967, the presidential limo was replaced, but the 1961 Lincoln was kept in the fleet for less important jobs. It actually didn't end up being fully retired until 1978 when it was sent to the Henry Ford Museum. It's on display there and rumored to be haunted. People apparently capture photos, the fun spooky photos where they don't really see anything when they're taking it, but then they look at it, they can see figures in the car.
Are they clear apparitions, or what are we talking about?
I mean, apparently some of them show like this gray figure standing near the car. A couple show figures in the car. They even try to say that the pictures become more clear mid to late November. Seems really weird. I don't know that I've ever heard of a haunting that becomes clearer around the date of the haunter's death. I don't know.
That's a good excuse if someone's like, I don't see anything. It's
wait
more,
till November.
It's
Just
more clear later. Come back,
time.
Pay the museum fee.
Well, odd collector's items, though. Apparently, people are really wanting to be a part of that haunting in some way. A few years ago, a piece of leather from the seats in that very car, a 9 by 11 inch piece of leather, sold for $13,000. Apparently, one of the people involved with the refurb of the car, because when they fancied it all up, they did take the leather seats out because, they were kind of stained.
Oh, all right.
Gruesome. But yeah, you could have, if you were on the ball like 6 or 7 years ago, you could have owned that square of leather.
Oh, great.
Who knows? Maybe that person will put it up again.
$1,000?
$13,000.
Yeah, I don't need leather.
A piece of leather the size of a piece of paper, actually, roughly.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
What a mess.
So that's spooky. I mean, the idea of a president dying in it and like maybe the craziest conspiracy of all time happening related to it is spooky. But I don't know that that's completely terrifying. This one, the way that I read it, it's going to sound really funny. But imagine actually being there. I don't think it would be funny. I think it would be very, very scary. So Byron, have you heard of the jumping car of Cape Town?
I have never heard about
Never in your life heard of the jumping car of Cape Town?
I don't think so.
Really?
I like Cape Town. It looks like a nice place to visit.
It does look very, very beautiful. So this is kind of a funny story.
Right.
It wasn't any kind of a fancy car, and this happened in 2004. Renault Megane. This must be some kind of a South African car because I don't know anything. Or maybe it's just one of the millions of cars that I don't know about. But this family had gone to sleep. Their car was outside. And they woke up because the car started on its own. This really does sound a little bit like Herbie, right? Family called the police because they thought somebody was stealing the car. Makes perfect sense. The police arrived, apparently see the car jumping around without a driver or a key in the ignition.
It doesn't even make sense if there was someone in the car that it would be jumping unless it had...
The hiccups?
No. Unless it has hydraulics.
Oh, right. Like the fun. I've always wanted. I mean, that seems really fun.
You've always wanted hydraulics?
Not enough to ever like choose to pay for that over other things that I would like, but it seems like it would be fun.
Well, the further we go down this, and I know we're not even done yet, but like...
No, definitely not.
It seems like X to the Z exhibit might be the cause of most of these hauntings. When he's pimping all those rides. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like a lot of it happened long before him.
Well, this was 2004, which is in the prime of pimping rides.
Okay, that's true. But if you look at pictures of the car, it really was not a very cool car.
No, it looks like the South African... Oh, it's French. The French version of a Honda Fit.
Yeah, it is not a sexy car.
Excuse me?
According to the news, the local news that reported on it, 9 people witnessed the car jumping. 2 of them were police officers. Apparently it was jumping uphill with the handbrake engaged. That's the emergency brake for people like me that don't know car lingo. Who knows what the hell happened? Obviously, this was a little bit of a PR problem for the car manufacturer. They said they thought it was probably just a rusty starter cable. Which makes no sense.
It makes total sense. Case closed.
What bums me out is with 9 people witnessing it and it being 2004, we should have a video of it. There should be a damn video.
It would have been on like a flip cam or something, though, in 2004. You realize now that's like 16 years ago.
Yeah, but like people had video cameras.
Their mini DV camera. I don't know.
Right, like their home video deal.
It's more likely. Not as likely as it would be now.
Well, this was just kind of a funny one, but if I woke up in the middle of the night and one of our cars was like jumping up and down in the driveway, it wouldn't be funny. I'd be super freaked out.
Sounds like the beginning of an Amblin film to me, so I don't know.
I guess it could be. Okay, so this one is one of the more genuinely spooky stories. All right, Byron, this is the Black Volga. This is a black limousine. Most of the stories surrounding it are from the 60s and the 70s. The urban legend is that the car either belonged to a group of nuns, a group of priests, or possibly the devil.
Ah, yes, the devil.
And it would appear out of nowhere and abduct children.
It's kind of like the car in Nosferatu then, right?
It actually is. I need to finish watching that. I only watched a couple episodes and then kind of forgot that it was a thing. I like that Zach Quinto a lot.
Yeah, he's great.
You sound like you don't love Nosferatu, though.
I thought it was fine. I just quit watching it. I think I was like 3 or 4 episodes in. It's like, how many times do I got to watch Zachary Quinto turn old to young, you know?
I mean, it's a cool idea. I don't mind it.
It was a little CW-y for me, but with violence.
Oh, I can see that. Okay. Yeah. So it would come out at night, roam around until the morning. No one could ever see the driver, which I think lent itself to this idea that the driver was some kind of an evil spirit, possibly the devil himself. And honestly, Byron, I bet that this is what the car in Nosferatu is based on, because some of the different urban legends attached to the Black Volga are vampire related.
Ah, one of my favorite descriptors of this car is that sometimes the mirrors are actually horns on the side there.
Yes, like devil horns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a cool car.
It is a really, really cool car. And it was an expensive car, which also kind of narrowed the range of people that could possibly own it. It actually had curtains. White curtains in it.
Wow, really?
Which makes it sound more like a hearse, in my opinion.
How come cars don't have curtains? I don't like those weird pull-down things new parents get that just get gunked up real quick.
Oh, yeah, we have them, like, actually, they're part of the new car that we bought a couple of years ago, but it pulls from the bottom up.
Oh,
because you're always, like, pulling it up and snapping them. I'm like, oh, my God, it's so annoying.
Kids always have gunk on their hands, so they're never going to be clean.
So much gunk. So much gunk. It reminds me, I really need to clean my car.
All right. You didn't even say this as a part of the Gorky automobile plant.
The Gorky?
Yeah.
What?
It's an imprint.
There were also legends that surrounded the idea if you reported seeing the Volga to any type of authority, you would be killed. Supposedly there were some people that were found dead soon after making such a report.
Wow, it's like the opposite of the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile.
I do love the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile.
All right. So I didn't have time to record a new Spring Hill Jack coffee ad this week, and I don't want to hear the coronavirus one again, and I know you probably don't either. It's been several months at this point, but I'm just going to wing it. Spring Hill Jack coffee is good. I like it when it is brute. Jamie, I'm recording a Spring Hill Jack ad real quick. What do you think of it? Should give me a thumbs up. You'll let the cat in. This is why we can't do live ad reads. It tastes good. I like the way it makes me feels when I drink it. So you should buy it on Amazon or at springhilljack.coffee. How's that? It's okay. It's okay. You made it better. I love you too.
The stories of the Black Volga actually went overseas too, and there was a movie in 1973 made in Poland about this legend, which is supposedly pretty spooky. I haven't seen it. It's one of those cool legends that gets passed down generation to generation, but there are always kidnappings associated with it. Some of them very otherworldly theories about the kidnappings, like there were vampires involved that were feeding on the children. Others sound a little bit reminiscent of some current QAnon theories that the children were taken to secret facilities where their blood was used and sold on the black market.
Yeah, but you gotta spook them first. You gotta scare them and get that adrenochrome going.
Oh my God. Other people said it was like organ trade. Ooh. Ugh.
Kid organs don't fit adult bodies, to my knowledge. But I guess, I don't know if you're eating them.
Oh, I guess so. So the next one is kind of funny because obviously I immediately associate it with Harry Potter because it's the Surrey, England ghost crash.
I'm going to take a break. I'll be right back.
I know. And every time I hear Surrey, because I'm American and I don't hear that many references to Surrey, all I think of is, you flew that car to Surrey and back? All right, December 11th, 2002, 7:20 p.m. Drivers on the A3, which is a big highway over there, in Surrey began to call in about an accident involving a car that had swerved off the road with its headlights blazing, went into the underbrush down the embankment off the side of the highway. Multiple calls, okay? Police arrived, started searching for the car and driver. They found no crashed car, no wreckage, no debris. The underbrush itself that supposedly this car was falling onto was super, super thick, didn't look disturbed at all. And then they discovered there was a maroon car deep in the brush, nose down, windshield spiderwebbed. It had been there for a long time. Inside the car was the skeleton of a driver. Oh. It was like the ghost apparition of the car crash, trying to get attention to show that there was actually a car wreck down there that needed to be recovered from God knows how far ago. Pretty spooky. 5 months prior is when it had crashed.
It only took 5 months to skeletonize well, it's in a car, I guess.
And it's underbrush. I mean, who knows? Lots of flora and fauna down there.
That's true.
Very, very spooky.
I think I took a wrong turn.
Yeah.
That's what he said. He's a skeleton.
You think that's what he said?
Probably. It's a skeleton, yeah. The car was badly damaged, though. Yeah, I mean, he probably died real quick.
Very spooky. That's kind of fun because it's like an actual ghost.
Yeah, multiple people saw this thing.
3 different calls into the police seeing this wreck on that specific night. And it turns out it had actually happened 5 months prior.
That has to be one of the more chilling ones so far.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
I really like that one. The last car we're going to talk about is probably the most famous cursed car. It's called the Little Bastard.
All right, watch her.
Well, I don't know why James Dean got away with calling it that, but he did. James Dean, one of those tragic, legendary film characters who died far too soon.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, do you know he was only in 3 movies and only one of them came out before he died?
More importantly, his middle name was Byron, and I had no idea.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Brian. It's B-R-Y-A-N.
No, not on Wiki.
Really?
And not because I just changed it. It said Byron.
Oh, okay, cool.
It does say Byron in both places. I think I'm right here.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to buy it. Wow. Interesting.
3 movies, though. That is interesting. Rebel Without a Cause, East of Eden, and Giant.
Yeah. He did pass away at the age of 24.
Yeah.
I don't know. He was an interesting guy. There are lots of stories surrounding him and what may have happened to him as a child. Some people say that he was molested as a kid and had a lot of issues as a result of that. Who knows? But interestingly enough, Obi-Wan Kenobi himself, Alec Guinness, saw him with the car and had this weird feeling that something terrible was going to happen to him.
And then I heard feet running down the street, and it was James Dean. And he said, I was in that restaurant, you couldn't get a table. And my name's James Dean. He said, will you come and join me? So we said, yes, very kind of him. And then going back into the restaurant, he said, before we go in, I must show you something. I've just got a new car. And there in the courtyard of this little restaurant was I don't know what the car was, some little silver, very smart thing, all done up in cellophane with a bunch of roses tied to its bonnet. And I said, how fast can you drive in this? He said, I can do 150 in it. And I said, have you driven it? He said, no, I've never been in it at all. And some strange thing came over me, some almost different voice. And I said, look, I won't join your table unless you want me to, but I must say something. Please do not get into that car. Because if you do, and I looked at my watch, and I said, if you get into that car at all, it's now Thursday, whatever the date was, 10 o'clock at night, and by 10 o'clock at night, next Thursday, you'll be dead if you get into that car. I said, oh, nonsense. So we had dinner, we had a charming dinner, and he was dead the following Thursday afternoon in that car.
In this car, it's a Porsche Speedster 23F.
Can we talk about whether you say Porsche or Porsche? Because
oh, yeah.
I mean, like, I really don't know the actual answer. Again, I know nothing about cars, but for some reason, when people say Porsche, it's like almost as annoying to me as when people say nuclear.
And that's funny. I always thought Porsche was like short slang for Porsche, but honestly,
you're probably right.
I mean, but would you remove the E in the word and then it's Porsche? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. So apparently his last words were, they have to see us, right? The other car didn't see him. It was a kid from Cal Poly named Donald Turnipseed. Such a fun name. It honestly sounds like a made-up name.
Yeah, it could be
But he was
fake.
driving a Ford sedan. Dean's car, he swerved trying to move the last second. They crashed head-on. Dean was killed instantly, broken neck. Wutherick, who was with him in the car, a friend, he was thrown free and he only suffered a fractured jaw, broken leg, some internal injuries, but he did survive.
Yeah, only that.
Yeah, only that. I mean, comparatively speaking. And then poor little Turnipseed, he was pretty okay. Just a few cuts. He didn't even have to go to the hospital.
Except he's the one who
killed James Dean.
Dean.
I mean, but let's be honest. James Dean
attempted to
was
kill
driving
him.
way too fast.
Yeah, he Paul
Yeah,
walked.
way too fast.
He was Paul walking.
Walker?
He was doing what Paul Walker did, which I would call Paul walking.
Okay, like not walking.
Not literally walking.
But like turning Paul Walker's last name into a verb.
Yes.
Got it.
He Paul walked.
So maybe we should say Paul Walkering.
He Paul Walkered?
Yeah, I think so. That's more. I think that's more clear because it doesn't sound like
I get in trouble for what we're doing right now to Paul Walker.
Probably. It is really sad. All of these things are horrifically sad. And there have been, as we know, a number of car crashes involving young, famous people. It's always a tragedy. But the curse of Little Bastard, people knew that something was going to happen ahead of time. A couple of different people, in addition to Alec Guinness, predicted that, man, this is going to be trouble. Now, arguably, it could simply be because they knew that James Dean was a young kid who loved driving cars too fast, and this car was a car that begged to be driven too fast, and that was just like the logical conclusion that was being made, right? It didn't necessarily involve prophecy, but I don't know. Obi-Wan seems a bit prophetic, so maybe it was.
Well, he was just a professional actor, but...
So 2 of the tires from the car were not damaged in the crash, and a guy bought the wreckage of the car for the parts, sold those 2 tires. A guy named Barris was the guy that bought the wreckage. Sold the 2 tires to a young sports car driver. A few days later, the young man told him that both tires had blown simultaneously, made him run off the road, nearly wreck his car.
Wait, he was trying to use the wheels? He wasn't like just collecting them?
No, which seems really strange, right? Like, wouldn't you want to collect all of these things?
I'd put them in a museum or my garage.
People were super obsessed with him, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna throw
I
them
don't
on my
understand
car.
that either.
If you're using them, they're gonna get
well,
old.
and he apparently really did break it down to parts.
Wow.
He sold the engine and the drivetrain to 2 doctors.
Doctors every time.
I know, it is. Well, because they've got the money to do these things, right?
Yeah.
These 2 doctors had race cars of their own, raced their cars at Pomona in California on October 2nd, 1956. One of the doctors was killed when his car went out of control and struck a tree. The other one was seriously injured when suddenly his car rolled over going into a curve. Now, I don't know about suddenly mysteriously rolled over, because when race cars go into curves, don't they roll over? That's a thing, right?
I really wouldn't be able to speak on that, especially back then, the center of balance on cars was a little bit different.
Well, whatever happened. I mean, that was a thing. And then there were some fans that were trying to get the pieces that were left at Barris's garage. One guy who was trying to steal the steering wheel ripped his arm open on a jagged piece of metal. Another person was injured while trying to steal a piece of blood-stained upholstery.
Well, don't do that.
Yeah, so all of this horror followed the little bastard wherever he went. Barris got rid of the pieces that remained. Horrific things continued to happen. Even when the car was kind of reassembled, parts that could be found were put back together, and it was put on display, it suddenly fell and broke into pieces. Nobody knew why. Apparently, the final thing that happened was in 1960. It was used for a safety exhibit in Miami, Florida, which seems like a good idea, right? Like, hey, don't drive too fast. This is what could happen to you. Look at poor James Dean. Mm-hmm. Afterwards, it was put back onto a truck and supposed to be sent back to Barris in Los Angeles. It never got there. Apparently, it vanished, and it's been gone ever since. So nobody really knows.
The train arrived in Los Angeles, and he signed the manifest and verified the seal was intact, but the boxcar was empty.
Like I said, who knows? Very spooky. And it could have been Dean himself that was cursed. The guy that was in the car with him was later convicted of murdering his wife and sentenced to life in prison, supposedly.
Wow.
A guy who had been in Rebel Without a Cause with him was stabbed to death in 1976. A guy who did voiceover for him OD'd. A lot of tragedies surrounding the butterfly effect of James Dean. So super sad. I prefer the funny jumping car. That's my favorite story. That's the one I'm sticking to. It just sounds like Herbie the love bug.
And no one got hurt.
No one got hurt in that one. That's the fun one.
I can't say I'm inspired to learn more about cars, but I do like these spooky ones.
Yeah, I guess I like spooky ones too. It's interesting for all the stuff that we have to put in our brains, Byron. It just doesn't seem like cars are a worthwhile thing to fill my brain with personally. Though it's cool that other people love them.
Well, I mean, I love that other people love them, especially when I'm visiting other cities and I get to use their vehicles to get around.
Oh yeah, like other people drive you, you get to feel like you got a chauffeur for a day.
Yeah, it's kind of fun, but after tonight's film, I might rethink that.
Probably a good idea.
Let's talk about it as we review Spree.
We hope you're enjoying your visit here this evening. Now, on with the show.
Spree is a 2020 American black comedy horror film directed by Eugene Kotlyarenko.
I think it's Kotlyarenko.
Kotlyarenko?
Or Kotlyarenko. It's either Kotlyarenko or Kotlyarenko.
Thirsty for a following, a rideshare driver has figured out a deadly plan to go viral.
You forgot about the most fun part of this? His name is Kurt Kunkel.
Yes, the lead in this film is Kurt Kunkel, and he is played by a gentleman named Joe Keery. That's a guy you like quite a bit. He plays Steve.
He's just fun.
I mean, yeah, he's got the hair. I mean, not in this, but he had the hair in Stranger Things, of course.
Yep.
And I did not know until today that he is in the band Post Animal, which I like.
What kind of music is this, since I don't listen to it, obviously?
Say indie, psychedelic, rock and roll.
It's the way that you think. It's the way that you talk.
Something like that.
Indie psychedelic rock and roll.
Yeah, why not?
Interesting.
Not sure if he's still in that band, but I'm not completely unfamiliar with Eugene. I watched his film Wobble Palace at South by Southwest. Very different from this film. Wobble Palace is like a drama comedy, but it still has the same sort of social commentary about millennials. A couple on the verge of a nervous breakdown decide to split their home over the weekend and test the waters of independence. He was actually one of the leads in it. He played a guy named Eugene. It's good. I like that movie. And I was really curious to see what he would do with a horror film, because his first film was not even close to a horror film. And he did not disappoint. This thing is a galling blast.
I mean, so here's the thing. I think I referred to it as super fun, even on our Facebook group. And then after typing that, I got to thinking, I'm like,
is that a Byron fun
movie
or a fun
where this guy kills a bunch of people? I probably shouldn't call it fun.
Yeah, you've slipped into Byron habits.
Mm-hmm, but it is kind of fun. I will say that some of the reasons that it became super fun for me have to do with the cameos.
Okay. I mean,
real fun cameos.
And we should explain a little bit about Kirk before we get to the cameos. He is kind of like an Uber driver, but it's spree.
It's called spree.
Yeah,
because then it makes for a really good killing spree.
Yes. But he's your typical social media obsessed. All he wants to do is go viral.
I don't know that he's typical.
Well, I think that
he's a bit extreme.
Yes, okay.
And it's this idea that people who are obsessed with a social media following perhaps do not have a connection to reality in a meaningful or healthy way.
Mm-hmm. And he comes up with something called The Lesson, which is
The Lesson.
How to go viral. And The Lesson is a killing spree with the intention of getting lots of people to tune in live as he drives his spree vehicle around, picking up folks. And he wired the whole thing with a bunch of cameras, so that is the perspective.
And lights.
Very
beautiful
lights. Lights are great. I mean, it's kind of like you're in the cash cab, but you're just in some annoying kid's vehicle. It's a found footage style film, and we are witness to people who request rides from him.
And what happens then to them, which is, it's only fun because he's like a dumpy Dexter.
He's a bit of a dumpy Dexter, and a lot of the people he picks up are not great folks either, which I think is a great tool to get you to kind of be on the side of Kurt for a little bit at least. One of the first people he picks up is a white supremacist.
Who I still think looks like either Penn or Teller. I can never tell which one.
His name is Linus Phillips, and he's a great indie actor, works a lot with Mark Duplass and his brother.
You don't think his name's Linus?
I think I've heard his name. I've seen him.
Really? Because it's spelled the same way as the Peanuts character, which is Linus.
Well, I'm not certain, but Linus is... Manson Family Vacation, Rainbow Time, Bass Ackwards, lots of really great films. He's one of my favorite character actors, and it was really cool to see him in this, even if he's playing a bad guy. Kurt takes him out swiftly in probably the most boring way.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
He poisons a bunch of bottles of water, and you know how you hop in the back of a ride share and they offer you water or the aux cable, a charge cable, or mint, gum, stuff like that, just in hopes of getting 5 stars, which, by the way, remember at the top when I said I had a low score on Uber?
Oh, yeah. Why? What?
For the longest time, I thought it was totally okay for me to just get in the car and have my headphones on and just get there and get out. And then I
actually would say my assumption, Byron, is that drivers would prefer that so they don't have to have weird conversation.
You would think
they can tell there's no expectation of that extra level of work.
I gotta say, I think that people who choose this as a profession like human interaction. I decided once I noticed my score was low, the last time I was at South by Southwest, I was like, I'm gonna do an experiment. I'm going to have meaningful conversation, attentive communication with every driver that I get in hopes of them.
Oh, that sounds like a reason to never get an Uber ever again.
You know what, though? I discovered that the world is very small. A lot of people had some sort of relation to the state of Montana, which was very interesting, and asked me a lot about film since I was there for South by Southwest. And I actually, not friends, but became friendly with lots of folks. And I think that was great. Now my score's a 4.9. So it worked. I manipulated people into giving me higher scores.
I just can't imagine having that much interest in elevating your score. I mean, it's not like somebody's not going to pick you up because you have a 4.3.
4.3 is pretty low.
You have a 1.5.
I've never done that job, but if there's folks out there, I would be curious to know what the lowest score is that you would pick up. So tweet me at Byron McKoy or just Byron at Frightday.com. That's my email address. Very curious. But Other folks he picks up was she a real estate person?
Yes, she was.
Yeah.
She was.
Terrible woman, taken out in a very similar way. My God.
Very unkind.
I didn't know this film was executive produced by Drake. Did you know that?
Only because I watched the credits at the end and saw that, and I did the same thing. I was like, wait, what?
Had no idea. Huh. But
yeah,
but so
kind of interesting, huh?
As he's going along, trying to get eyes on what he's doing, but he keeps killing them in the boring way, and he's got this buddy, Bobby.
He's not his friend.
Nah, he's not. He's someone
He's a kid he used to babysit that thinks Kurt is remarkably uncool and is really annoyed, but he assumes that what Kurt's doing is just a funny ha-ha.
Yeah.
And so he's yelling at Kurt and telling him, like, this is stupid and boring. It needs to be more exciting. This is so dumb. Which then Kurt takes to mean he needs to be doing some cooler kills.
Well, I think that's kind of what Bobby was saying, but Bobby was also implying that this was all staged and fake. And
or maybe Bobby didn't really care because Bobby was inflicted with the same illness as Kurt. He just wasn't quite as stupid.
Maybe Bobby's just a bad guy, and this is some sort of elevated alternate reality or a near future type situation where this is more.
I think it's a possibility for sure.
Yeah, but Bobby, he's like your typical Twitch streamer. He's like got a catchphrase. He's got a name for his fans. I think that Eugene did a really good job of picking up on the nuances of trends right now. You know, the lingo, what they do, and kind of elevating it in a pretty cool way.
It was cool. I agree.
I think your favorite part is Kurt's father?
He's one of my favorite parts, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just this loser wannabe DJ something.
I think he is a DJ, he's just not a great one.
He's a pretty bad one. He clearly has contributed to Kurt's broken brain because he seems similarly lacking of intelligence or connection to reality. And we even learn in a weird aside that he was, and maybe still is, possibly a heroin addict.
He's not in good shape, and he is played by one of my favorite actors, Deputy Dewey himself, David Arquette.
Yeah.
Who is actually, he's the star of a film that's coming out soon called You Cannot Kill David Arquette, which is about his return to amateur wrestling, which I don't know if you followed that maybe a year or so ago.
I didn't know that he ever did it, so then I didn't know that he was returning to it.
It's going to be an amazing
I do not like
documentary.
wrestling. The only relationship to wrestling that I ever want to have is Peanut Butter Falcon.
All right. Well, I'm excited for that. I was thrilled to see David Arquette in this, and he played a real douchebag, and I liked it a lot. Speaking of DJing, though, Kurt has a DJ hobby himself. He's not very good either, but that doesn't stop him from showing his DJ mix in the car to a couple guests as well.
Hope you guys like music. You a fan of music? What body part did he just hit? What?
DJ Kurt Outdoor exclusive.
Dude, can you turn off your shitty music? Fully off. Yeah, totally, but you were just telling me how much you like it, though.
And that's where he meets Sashir Zameda's character, Jesse Adams.
And she's an SNL alum, yeah?
That is correct, and I believe she's branching out into more and more film. She's incredible. I thought she was great in this.
Oh, she was really good. She was very funny.
She did a great job of being one of those up-and-coming New York to LA comedians.
Well, and the play between Sashir and the character Mario, played by some fellow that I don't know either, John DeLuca.
Not one bit. Well, that sounds familiar, actually.
Who's just this greasy, dirtbag, misogynist yuck face, immediately trying to hit heavily on Jesse.
Yeah.
Yeah, watch out for him. He's a fucking psycho. But like I was saying, my name is Mario, and you must be Jesse.
He has ears.
And eyes. And 3 legs.
Wouldn't be surprised if he had rabies, too.
Wait, hold up. I know you.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Hey, Mario or Mario or whatever your name is, just grab a water and chill out.
Shut the fuck up. Yo, she's a comedian.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, no, you do the, hey, everybody look at me.
It's all eyes on me.
I fucking knew it. Yeah, you like, all eyes on me. All eyes on me. I said all eyes on my fucking
Wait, hold on. You're famous.
No, I'm not famous. If I was, I wouldn't be taking a spree social.
No, dude, she's got a mega following. She's legit, man.
Wait a second. You have a huge following?
Yeah, dude.
That's amazing. How did you grow your audience?
I'm like, funny.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, having a big following, Yeah, all those notifications coming in. I mean, I get it. I do too. So, Jesse, it's super nice to meet you. Follow for follow, and if you post anything in my spray, just make sure to tag me. I'm Kurtzworld96.
Sir, are you a Twitter bot or is there a real live human boy in there?
And she's disgusted, and also disgusted by how weird Kurt is with desperately wanting her to
follow back,
tag him in anything because he finds out that she's famous, and she's like, I'm not even famous. This is stupid.
Have you seen the film All About Nina? It came out maybe 2 years ago.
Oh, that sounds so familiar.
Yeah, it's Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Jesse's story is a lot like that. She's up and coming, also uses social media, but in a more effective way. Stand-up comedian.
She's good at it.
Yeah.
She also seems to have connection to reality still.
Absolutely.
At least until the end.
We see these little vignettes, which is a really interesting technique of keeping the story going. Even though time is dilated a little bit, it feels like real time, you know?
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah. I like the way that they did this. Any other pickups, or I don't want to spoil all of them. Kurt he picks up a lot of folks, and
a lot of folks.
A lot
Some
of folks.
funny people, and if it looks like you recognize the person, you should look it up because you probably do recognize the person.
I mean, we got a Misha Barton in this as well. Kyle Mooney, another SNL alum. He plays Miles, who is Jesse's friend, but he also wants to be more than that, as well as her manager. He just kind of wants to ride the coattails of Jesse, but great to see him. He's very good as well. This movie's really fun. This is a unique found footage film.
It is. Kind of in the same way that Host was, it's taking advantage of kind of this new opportunity. I have no doubt that this is going to get overplayed really quickly, but being on the front edge of a new kind of found footage based on two different social cultural phenomena, I guess, both the ride sharing idea and the weird world of YouTube stars.
One thing that I didn't bring up, the Uber killer. Do you remember this at all?
I remember it was a thing, but then I didn't know if it was one of those things that I invented in my brain and wasn't real.
Yeah, it was like 4 years ago. This guy in Michigan went on a killing spree, ended up shooting 6 people to death because he thought he saw his Uber app, which he was a driver, flash red and show a demon, I believe.
Well, I mean, when somebody flashes a demon at you, what you gonna do?
You gotta kill someone. You gotta pick them up and shoot them with a gun. But I can't imagine.
Real bummer. That's too bad.
It was horrific. And I was thinking about covering it, but this movie is such a lighthearted. Well, I mean, it is lighthearted and it is fun, even though the subject matter is kind of dark and pretty mean-spirited. But I think that Eugene did a really good job of not only... He pulled all these elements together. There's comedy, there's like some really heartfelt moments between Jesse and Kurt, if you can imagine that. Violence that is pretty entertaining at the same time. There's a message here too. And I think Eugene did a lot of research. He put a lot of heart into this.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess we final thought this thing.
Yeah, I guess this is 2 weeks in a row watching a movie that has gotten at least some kind of discussion, but I tried very hard to ignore it. Going in, I have to admit I had the expectation that it might not have been that great because it seemed kind of like a feeble concept to fill a whole movie with. Turns out it was really fun, and I think part of it was because the lead actor pulled it off in such amazing ways. I mean, anybody who has that much experience with Stranger Things has clearly got some good acting chops, and I'm excited to see what else Joe Carey does. But he created this character that was at the same time kind of pitiful, also likable and sad, and then definitely evolved that character over the course of the movie, which was my favorite part of it to watch. Some very funny comedic moments. The idea was unique. I love unique idea horror movies, and it's harder and harder to come up with those these days. And we've had 2 of them this month, which is, lucky us. Yay beans.
Back to back.
Byron, is this available for streaming right now?
It sure is, yeah.
I think everybody should probably stream it because we're in the dog days of summer, It's kind of toasty out there. Good flick to watch. Everybody's heading back to school or not school.
A lot of homeschools these days.
A lot of homeschools. Never thought that I'd be okay with homeschool. Turns out I am. Check this one out. It's a fun, cap-tier, fun, exciting summer of COVID. It is one I can safely say is going to be enjoyed by a much wider range of audiences than some horror movies we review, because it's just got a more universal appeal to it, I would say. Not 100% universal, but more universal than your average horror flick. And for all of those reasons and more, I give Spree 7.4 smash cell phones.
Kurt Kunkel is an incredible character. I've heard people criticize the film for lacking depth, but I think that that's kind of the point. Kurt is an exaggerated product of internet culture. He's supposed to be flat. He's supposed to be clueless. He's supposed to not understand how to relate with people. And I think that and for someone like you to like this so much, Kelly, and I'm not judging you, but you are pretty far removed from a lot of the social media trends. And
I am not a hip young trendsetter with any of that.
But I'm so happy that it played as well with you as it did to me, who has unfortunately kept up with that.
Well, it's good you did, because you understood this movie a lot more because of it.
Eugene did a really great job. I know that he and Joe worked together a lot to make sure that this character came out correctly. I think they nailed it. I think they knocked it out of the park. It is maybe a little long. It's 93 minutes. It could be like 83 minutes. It's still well-paced. The acts are very different. The relationship that he has with reality shifts in some really cool ways. I just like this film. I think it was a lot of fun. Yeah, and for all those reasons, I gotta give Spree 7.3 water bottles. And those are our thoughts on Spree, which is available on streaming platforms everywhere. Check it out. And once you have, let us know what you think. Why don't you send us a tweet or DM us on Instagram at Frightday. You can send us an email, contact@frightday.com. You could leave a comment below this episode in the show notes at frightday.com, which is a great place for all things horror. Lots of trailers, lots of reviews.
You could write us a nice review. A nice one.
You could please do that. That would make me very happy on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you listen to this. But we could also have a conversation about this in the Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Frightday. A lot of really great folks bringing up some really
people,
just amazing folks. I love it there. I actually just approved, I don't know if he would like me to publicly say this, your husband is officially a member of the Facebook group again, which is funny because I didn't think he wasn't. I just approved his request.
He canceled all Facebook stuff.
Yeah, but now he's back. So that's great.
Super fun. Love it.
And if you love our show and want to help us make it even better, grab something spooky at shop.frightday.com. I just ordered 2 new blanks. Kelly, I didn't tell you, but we are finally doing the Nessie as a t-shirt.
I was just going to say #Nessie. Buy something Nessie.
And
support Nessie. She's getting trashed by certain members of the political majority.
And I think we're going to do another version of the Bigfoot tee as well. So woo! Get your cryptid-related merchandise there at shop.frightday.com, and we are gonna zip it because it's the middle of the dang day and it's hot outside.
It is hot.
We got to cool down, get some lemonade. But there's plenty more to hear if you're a member of the Frightday Society at patreon.com/Frightday. I just finished shipping out the first round of membership cards. Folks, keep your eyes on your mailboxes if you're already a member. If you aren't yet, consider it because you get lots of stuff. We talked a little bit about it at the top of the show, but you get access to all the
stuff.
Frightday Screamium episodes, Behind the Screams, Toast to Toast PM with Wine Kelly, bonus episodes of Captain Kelly's Cryptids, Conspiracies, and Byron Serial Corner, The Writer's Room, you get Cinema Autopsy, so much more.
Exclusive jam recipes,
and I think I'm going to start trying to find a way to upload playlists of jams that I like.
Oh,
let us know what you want from us.
There will be Kelly jam lists too.
God, that's necessary.
It is.
When you are a member of the Frightday Society, you get access to hidden knowledge. You get to help us solve mysteries. You get a chance to level up in our organization. And in exchange for things that you do, you can earn points via merit badges, patches, all kinds of stuff. It's too much for me to explain without having
the most fun, cool club ever.
A prepared statement, and I will work on that. But yeah, patreon.com/Frightday. Join the Frightday Society for all things Frightday Screamium. Love to see you there. Most helpful of all, you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Best way to get us inside ears, up charts, and maybe someday we'll do a nice review episode for Behind the Screams, our favorite reviews.
That. Nobody wants to hear that.
I think this week on Behind the Screams, we're going to be doing a normie roundup. All the things non-horror that we're reading, listening to, watching, stuff like that.
You know how I love a normie roundup.
Yes, you do. And next week, I don't know what we're going to be doing. I know we had a couple folks ask us if we could, on the show, talk about the next film we're going to be covering, and we'll do our best to do that.
Yes, which I love doing. And sometimes we can,
And I mean,
but we can't always.
Not always, but next week we are going to be watching a movie, and we are in the middle of talking about our next multi-parter series. The Inner Circle is going to help us decide at patreon.com/Frightday. So I don't know. Kelly, until then, where are you going to be?
Oh, I'm probably going to be at my house, homeschooling.
Mm-hmm.
But you can find me on Twitter at Kelly Frightday. You can email me, kelly@frightday.com.
And I'm at Byron McKoy on Twitter and Instagram, byron@frightday.com. That's my email address. And until next Frightday, stay scared. You've been listening to an Audio Wool original, produced by Byron McKoy, theme music provided by Cemeteries. For more programs like this, visit audiowool.co.